Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. I'm your host, Patty G. We are here with Fran of Glass Half Full out in New Orleans. We're going to be talking about bottles, glass, recycling, sitting on beaches, and also coastal restoration. And before we get to all that, I want to give a big, wonderful shout out to the amazing sponsors that make this show possible. Government Taco, Folaya Real Estate, Mallard Bay Outdoors, Horizon Financial Group, and Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge. Thank you to those amazing people that bring you this show each and every week. And without further ado, Fran, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for braving what we all love about Baton Rouge and New Orleans, the traffic system, to get here.
No problem. I'll do it any day for you.
I appreciate that. So who are you and what do you do?
I am Fran. I am the co-founder and CEO of Glass Half Full. We recycle glass in New Orleans into sand and gravel. We use that sand and gravel for various things to benefit the Louisiana community. A lot of that manifests into sandbags for disaster relief and coastal restoration.
So how in the heck did you get into glass recycling?
Like most good ideas, I was drinking a little something out of a glass. Cheers to that.
Cheers to Louisiana.
Yes.
And good ideas from drinking.
Exactly. I learned it at a young age. All the best ideas come from that. No. But yeah, my co-founder and I were drinking a bottle of wine, and we kind of sat with it a little longer that night and thought about how it would end up in a landfill because we didn't have a reliable glass recycling program, and we thought that was a shame. So.
Okay. So what were you in? I mean, were you in school at this time? I mean, how was because not everybody that drinks a bottle of wine or drinks a bottle of whatever it may be thinks about where the bottle's going to end up. So, I mean, what was your life before this, kind of leading up to that point?
Yeah, I mean, well, my life way before was growing up I'm from Caron Crow, Louisiana. So pretty small town. We don't have recycling. In order to recycle, we had to drive like 20, 30 minutes away. Not very common to recycle. Didn't grow up with that like culture. And then I went to Tulane for college, which is where I met my co-founder, Max, who's from New York City. New York City.
Very different vibe.
They know how to recycle. Yeah, so it was his perspective that made me think a little more deeply about where that glass was going. And then during our senior year of college at Tulane is when we decided to start Glass Half Full.
Okay. So I grew up in San Gabriel, Louisiana, or actually Sunshine, Louisiana. And we had the same situation. You would put all your recyclables in a container and you bring it to a container at the fire station / store, like general store, and you would sort it out, except all their sorting really was just going in the same container with no dividers. So I can understand and relate to that for the difficulty in recycling. Now in Baton Rouge, we've got recycling cans versus garbage cans, but again, you put everything in one container, you really don't know where it's going to end up. Mm-hmm. So from that idea of looking at a bottle of wine and thinking this is going to end up in a landfill, I mean, how do you start taking action in that?
Yeah, we started in a backyard. So in the backyard of the fraternity that Max was in. Not your traditional, origin story, not something you usually see at a fraternity house, recycling in the backyard.
I mean, you see bottles in a fraternity
Yeah, it's a great source of the glass. Yeah, so we started in that backyard. We would get soap drums from this place in Laplace and turn them into collection bins. We would put them all around the neighborhood that we lived in. And then after school, would go around and collect the glass bottles, bring them to the back of the frat house, and then crush them through this really, really small machine that we were able to purchase.
Okay. So what were you at Tulane for? Because, I mean, I don't even know a process of getting glass back to that. I mean, I know, yeah, you throw glass, it's sharp, it cuts you. But, I mean, how in the world did you even know to think of or know about a machine that processed glass like this?
Yeah, Google was our friend.
Okay.
We didn't have any prior knowledge. I did study chemical engineering. I graduated in chemical engineering, but I swear, I didn't have any idea how recycling worked. I didn't know like what glass was made of. I kind of knew it was made from the sand. Could you turn it back into sand? I don't know. But yeah, we really just Googled a lot in like those early days. Like, how do you recycle glass? What can it turn into? And like most of the things that we saw was like, oh, you turn it into new glass bottles. We quickly realized that wasn't going to be possible for us because the closest plant to New Orleans is in Ruston, which is like 4 hours away.
Yeah, it's not a short drive.
No. So it didn't make sense financially or logistically to do that. And we were like, oh, that's probably why we haven't had glass recycling in the Gulf South for a long time. And that's when we realized we could just stop at sand. We're like, we use sand for so many things. Sandbags, number one, and then coastal restoration, number two.
So when you were deciding how you were going to bring it back to, or I guess Googling what can glass go back to, or how can you recycle it, and you stumbled upon sand. I mean, how did you know or even begin to find a machine to do something like that? Like, I had no idea there were machines that turn glass backwards.
Yeah, we didn't really either at first. But again, a lot of digging, and also these companies that make the machinery for glass recycling, they aren't on Instagram, they aren't on TikTok.
I was about to say, you can't look like Instagram glass smashing. I mean, people are gonna have hammers, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. They're not out there to the public.
No, it's a very niche industry. They barely had websites, and so it was pretty hard to find something. But we found a company based in New Zealand.
So not even in this country. Okay.
Right. So based in New Zealand, it's called Expleco, and they make small like glass to sand machines. And we were like, okay, perfect. They're like $6,000 for like a little machine. That was within our price range, and so we got that one.
So when you say little machine, I'm picturing like a tabletop machine that goes on the table. Okay, that's legit it?
I mean, it's like the height of a like not even a teenager. I don't know. It's like up to my shoulders maybe.
So do you know the production rate of that machine?
I have no idea.
Like how many, like were you going through a barrel of glass bottles a night, or were you going through like a handful, like a 6-pack a night?
No, you could go through a barrel in like an hour probably.
Oh, an hour? So that's a pretty good output. I would, but what grade? I mean, because you've got some different levels of sand here, and I've seen you on TikTok. You've got anything from like what looks almost like deadly shards size down to these really fine grains of sand, basically.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is that process to get it from that to something, from a bottle to something like what you've got in the jars here?
Yeah, so honestly, what comes out of most machines that we've had thus far is a mixture of sand and gravel. And from there, you have to sift it into the various sizes. So yeah, from all of the machines we've had, you put a bottle in, and what comes out is like sand and gravel all mixed. The cool thing about the machine we have now is that it also removes any contaminants. So like caps, corks, labels, all of that gets separated. And what we're left with is sand and gravel, and then we sift it into the different sizes.
So did the first machine do that?
No, the first machine simply crushed it. So we got like the mixture of sand and gravel plus labels and things like that.
So then what was that process going from mixed labels to pure sand?
We went to Lowe's. We got those like, those like metal sheets. It was like a sheet of metal with holes in it.
Okay.
And we would like hand sift it. So we'd like pour the mixture over that and like hand sift it.
No. Wait. So like you got like chicken wire, or you just
like that.
Okay, so like some like various grade of chicken wire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you would just sit there.
Yeah, we're like digging for gold.
Like shaking for gold. But like, so what about the labels?
So okay, so the cool thing about, again, most of the glass recycling machines is that when they crush the glass, there's some sort of mechanism where it only crushes the glass.
But no, the first machine.
Yeah, so everything that's not glass is bigger. So it would come out in the sifting process.
So it would separate the glass from the paper almost.
But we had to do it by hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it just literally just gave you a bucket full of this various sized glass particles and sand. Okay. Because we've done the traditional heating method with wine bottles and then pressed them down to make like spoon holders.
Yes, love those.
So we've done that before, and we used to collect like wine bottles from different restaurants and such, and my mom would do it for her friends or for gifts, and
That's
so we would like
awesome.
do like she would paint them or decorate them and then give them out as presents or whatnot. So I'm familiar with that method, and I know that we would have to get like Gojo and get scrapers and like scrape off these labels. So I'm just picturing. Oh, and that's what else she did. She would take. We did like 600 or 1,000 wine bottles to line flower beds, because that was the original design of the formal garden in the front of my parents' house back when it was built in the 1800s. She wanted to recreate that.
Wow.
So we would scrape labels off. So I'm picturing y'all scraping these labels off of thousands
my
and thousands of
God.
bottles. But knowing that there's a process within the machine that does it makes it a little bit easier.
I love that you know that struggle, because we
It's
we
so
tried it
bad.
for a little bit. We were like, maybe we should just like scrape the labels off of some, because it does create a cleaner product. But yeah, that is torture.
And we tried all the methods in the book. Like we Googled how to scrape labels off bottles, and there was like the boiling method, there was the heating method, there was the soap, the Dawn dish soap method, the
my
Gojo
God.
method, the plain scraper method. We found the best was just soaking it in like hot water in a sink and then just using a paint scraper and scraping those labels off. And it was that was the struggle. And the second struggle was installing these bottles upside down in the dirt with a rubber mallet and not breaking them.
Oh my God.
It's a very nice looking garden now.
I love that. I want to see it now.
But so I can relate to the struggle of scraping labels. Okay, so you got this one machine. I mean, doing this and funding $6,000 for a college student is not top of mind. So was this self-funded? Did you raise funds from friends and family? I mean, how did you get the $6,000?
I'm a trust fund kid. No, I'm just kidding.
I knew
That's
it.
what everyone thinks. That's what everyone thinks. No, we did GoFundMe. Woo.
Really?
Yeah. GoFundMe sponsor this show. Yeah. Both. So we did 2 GoFundMe campaigns. The first one was like when we were at the idea stage, like,
Okay.
hey, what do y'all think of this? We're going to turn glass into sand and use it for sandbags and coastal restoration. And we didn't know how that would go over, and people were really excited about it. We raised $20,000.
A little bit more than your $6,000. Okay.
Yeah, so we were able to buy that machine. We bought a trailer. We went and got more of those soap drums and turned them into, collection bins. We bought our sifting machines from Lowe's, the chicken wire.
hand constructed sifting
Yeah.
machines.
And that got us pretty far. And then we did another one about, 8 months later and raised $100,000.
Wow. So $120,000 between 2 GoFundMe campaigns.
Yep, and that's about all.
That's impressive. That is not a lot of GoFundMe campaigns get off the ground.
Yeah.
So to have 2 successful, I mean, what was your initial ask for the first GoFundMe?
The initial one was just like, we want to do this. Give us money.
Well, no, like how much was your what was your goal to
My
raise?
goal. Okay, I was like, we're not. Yeah. I think the original was like 7,500. So like
you
literally just
almost
to get the
tripled
machine.
it. Yeah, you almost tripled your initial raise.
Yeah.
And what about the second one? Now that you had
The
some
second
more.
one was 100,000. That was the goal.
Okay.
And we only just got it probably like a couple months ago.
Okay.
So it took like a year and a half. I think, a few months in, we were probably at like 60 grand, which was still awesome. But we always had set like that $100,000 goal.
Okay. So can you speak on the GoFundMe process? Because a lot of entrepreneurs are thinking about doing startups and they've got this idea in their head. They don't know how to raise capital. They don't know even where to begin. So start with how y'all decided to go GoFundMe route and then kind of work through that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we were inexperienced college kids, so we knew a bank was out of the question. Like, I was in debt from student loans. That was all the credit I had. So these like traditional routes that other entrepreneurs might be able to take, we knew was just off limits for us. We considered Kickstarter, but they also make you go through an application. So we were like, that's too much too. So we literally just wanted free money.
Free money.
Free money, that's all we need. And we knew that we could like tell our story on GoFundMe. And so that's why we chose GoFundMe. Free money, could tell our story. It's a way to get it out there. And then the way that we were able to actually raise money was by using the press. So we got, like, the first 3 days of the GoFundMe, there were 3 donors. One was Max, my co-founder. One was his mom.
Okay.
And one was our friend Ariana. Shout out Ariana. And we were like,
3 angel investors right there.
We were like, okay, so this isn't working. And then a local reporter did a story on us in NOLA.com. And then that day it just blew up. Like, from there, people were sharing on their Facebook and Instagram and all of that. And then that's when we really took off.
So did y'all like send a press release to NOLA.com?
I don't know how she found us.
You have no idea.
I should ask her. She's great. She's written stories about us since. But yeah, I'm honestly not sure how she found us.
I'm always curious behind the links of how people get to where they are and how they get to find out about you. So I'm very intrigued to learn how in the world she found out about you.
Yeah.
Okay, so throughout the GoFundMe process, where did they collect any fees from you? Was it difficult to get started? I mean, I know it's quote unquote free money, but I mean, what was the back end of that like with GoFundMe?
Honestly, super simple. Like, they pay, I think once you hit a certain amount, they start to pay you out, and then it's on like a weekly basis or maybe every couple of days. And then they do take a fee. I want to say it's like 7% or something.
Okay, it's not terrible.
It's honestly not bad. And it was free money. So it's like, take all the fees you want. Like, just give me most of it, and I'm chill.
I mean, a bank would charge you somewhere around that rate for a line of credit. So, it's not unreasonable. So it was like a lump sum, and then they would, so once you reached your mark, they were paying you out each week every time you raised additional capital.
Yeah.
Okay. So going from that, what were you able to do with it outside of buy the machines and the trailer and everything? Like, was that like a proof of concept moment for y'all where you realized other people believed in your vision?
Oh, for sure. We were like so overwhelmed with support, and then people reaching out and saying, let me help you. Because obviously we had no idea what we were doing. And so a lot of people through that GoFundMe, I love GoFundMe, crowdfunding in general. I think it's such a good way to start a business because it gives people skin in the game. Like,
100%.
They put money down, they're in, they believe in this thing. And it just allows for more people to know about your dreams and ambitions. And so that's how we were able to get so many other people involved and saying like, oh, did you consider this? Or let me help you with this and things like that.
So did GoFundMe take any equity in the business, or so y'all still own 100% of it?
Yeah, it's free money.
Okay.
For real free.
I mean, you got to convince people to give it to you to begin with. So you got to put in the effort. So you're working for it in a sense.
Oh, for sure. You're singing and dancing for the money. But at the end of the day, like, it's pretty free.
So, and I kind of look through, in a sense, I look through the Kickstarter stuff and see what people are offering. A lot of them are generally product based. And so y'all are more of a service based. Were y'all promising any type of products or anything at the end? Or you're just saying, hey, help us fund this venture?
FREE free. Yeah. No. Because we're mission based, which
Right.
is nice. Like, we can just say, support us because it's a good thing to support. And we know you're drinking alcohol. And you shouldn't put that in the trash. It should be going towards something.
Right. So, but y'all aren't necessarily a nonprofit, right?
No, we're a social business.
So, okay. Got it. So when y'all did that first raise and you started moving through the equipment, I mean, what was the trajectory of how do we get this to market? Because at the end of the day, you do have to fund the business somehow. You can't get... It's great to get it started, but there's got to be some revenue source.
Yeah, that was an afterthought for sure.
But it was a social project initially. How can we restore the coastlines? How can we establish a recycling facility in New Orleans, Louisiana? It had a cause to begin with.
Yeah.
So there was still that driving factor, but then the money's got to keep funding that.
Yeah.
So what was that first step to getting that first dollar?
Yeah. So we launched a residential pickup program.
Okay.
So we always had a free drop-off program where people would bring us their glass. It was really quite popular, but we only had one location. After a trial and error round where we had the barrels all over town. That didn't go well. So we had one location.
Wait, back up. I feel like there's a story there. What happened
there's a story.
What happened with the barrels? Because I know visiting New Orleans frequently, And being a resident here in Louisiana, I know what could happen to those barrels. So what can you share about happening with those barrels from the initial phase of multiple location drop-offs?
Yeah, so we had these soap drums. So
Okay.
they're already looking not very professional. And then we would
Did
just
they have
put
signs on them?
we had spray painted glass recycling.
Okay, so a
Yeah.
little bit more legit.
Yeah. And yeah, we just kind of like put them around town. We put them in Max's front yard. We put them at like in front of the frat house. We put them at like a restaurant nearby. And literally within like hours of putting it out, it would be full of glass. And then there would be glass all over the floor around it. Like just glass everywhere. It'd just be basically a trash pile.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so people got mad at us. Neighbors would be yelling at us.
So did like the city start coming after you?
No. The city of New Orleans did not care. But yeah, like old neighbors would come by and be like, "You're ruining this neighborhood. Like you're trashing this neighborhood." And we're just like, so yeah, we'd have to like run around town and continually like pick up the glass, and like it would break. It was just a huge hazard.
So where did you put all of these bottles and all this glass?
In the back of the frat house. For a while.
So you've got this backyard of this frat house just piling up with glass?
Yeah.
I mean, the fraternity was okay with this?
No, they did not like it.
Okay, I was about to say, at what point did the fraternity kick you off the yard?
Yeah. So we left on our own after like 4 months. So we started in like January, February of 2020. By June, someone had donated a warehouse to us for a couple months.
Okay.
So
really?
But what we did was, instead of like moving everything we had at the frat house, we were like, we're just going to start fresh.
Wait.
And so by the time August came around and like the brothers were coming back to the house, they were like, why is there glass everywhere?
So y'all didn't take any of the bottles? So you just left them?
Yeah. Well, we went back eventually. They got really mad. There was a whole thing. And so
Shocking,
eventually.
they'd be mad about a mountain of glass in
Yeah.
the backyard.
Yeah. But we cleaned it up eventually.
Y'all didn't even touch the mountain at the frat. You just
We were just
left
like,
it?
We're starting fresh.
But what about the machine? Did you take the machine?
I want to say no. I think we just got a new one. We're like, this one's old news. We've beaten it up so much.
So you just left a machine, bottles, everything in the backyard.
We had things to do. Yeah.
Okay. So upon returning to the frat house, the president realized the backyard still was a recycling facility.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that exchange go? Because I can't imagine it went well.
He was actually pretty chill, Luis. He's great. Yeah, he's just like, the brothers are mad. You got to move the glass. And we're like, oh, we're trying to build something here, man. Like, they're like, they want to build a gym in the backyard or something.
And they don't want to recycle glass in the backyard.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you move into this warehouse donated by an extremely gracious person. And that didn't last for long.
Mm-mm.
So did y'all raise enough money through the pickup facility? I mean, how did you get enough revenue to purchase a new machine? If I'm thinking this first machine was $7,000, the second machine, I'm imagining from a economies of scale, has got to be bigger and better,
Yeah.
and probably is not the same price tag.
No. So yeah, we started filling up this donated warehouse, and we were like, okay, clearly we have too much glass. We don't have a big enough machine. We don't have a big enough warehouse. And so we actually decided that the two things would happen at once. So one weekend in August of 2020, I, with my dad, drove to Louisiana, Indiana. Louisiana, that was the name of the town. It's like 10 hours away, to purchase these used glass crushing machines.
Okay.
And that same weekend, we were going to sign a lease for the facility that we're currently in. So it's like a huge 40,000 square foot facility, because those machines that we were picking up would not fit in the little warehouse that we were in. I mean, it was like uptown New Orleans, like tiny warehouse. We had it filled with glass. The machines just were not going to fit there. And so, but we decided to do it in the same weekend. And so we had to...
Wait, hold up. purchase the machines and move all the glass into the new facility?
We'll at least like get the keys to the new facility.
Okay.
But that involved putting a deposit down. And then we also had to pay for the machines, which were $5,000. We didn't have enough money for both of those things. So we were Googling like, does the landlord cash the like deposit, or like if we give him a check, will he actually cash it? Because we don't have enough money, but we promise we won't do anything. Yeah, so that was scary. I don't even know how we ended up getting the money because I was broke. I think Max maybe had some money like saved that he was able to scrape together, but we were not confident. And like my dad and I were on the way back with the machines, like these huge machines.
Yeah, they were cashing that check that day.
We had to put them somewhere, you know, like it wasn't going to fit in the facility we had. We had to get that new one. But it all worked out.
Okay. So I'm only hearing currently one revenue source of the glass pickup. So I mean, how were y'all able to fund this and make money?
Yeah. So the glass pickup service really took off just because we had already really attracted so many people to our drop-off site. And for most of them, they were like, I don't have the time or energy to like bring it to you. Like, I don't want to do that, but I want to do the right thing. And we'd already kind of hooked them on like recycling their glass.
Like once you get into recycling glass, you're not.
Right. You're not going to throw it. Right. You're not just going to throw it in the trash after that. You know, these are, you know, human beings with morals. And so I think that was why we were able to convert so many of those free customers to paying customers.
Okay.
And so when we started the pickup service, we already had 100 customers. So that's, you know, recurring revenue.
Right. So how did that go telling them, hey, you don't have to bring them, but instead just come and pay us?
They were actually so excited. Like,
okay.
People, honestly, like the customers are the ones who came up with the idea of like a paid pickup service. I mean, it's not like it's a novel idea, but it wasn't really something on our radars until they were like, can I just pay you to pick it up? Like, I don't feel like bringing it to you. And we were like, that's a good idea. And so, yeah, by the time we actually launched it, so many people were wanting it that it went really well.
So it was like a subscription-based revenue model. They're paying monthly, weekly?
Monthly, yeah.
Okay, monthly. So you're going and picking up these people's glass from their house, and that was enough revenue to generate the purchasing of the machines and the building at the same time?
Yeah.
I mean, because what was it, 14,000 you said, or 40?
The building?
The warehouse, yes, you're now.
It's 40,000 square feet.
That's not cheap in New Orleans.
So we actually worked out a deal. We were really scrappy. We worked out a deal with our landlord because the building was like so dilapidated, and the previous tenant who was in it had like fled the state.
Oh my gosh.
And he was a metal worker, so he had left everything behind, like all these huge metal things, like all of his tools, he like built a paint room, like all this crazy stuff that the landlord was like, I don't want to deal with this. And we were like, we will clean it. First 2 months are free. And he was like, all right, whatever. So that's how we were able to like move into that facility without having any money.
I love that. So you bootstrapped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the vision that y'all had of, we have to make this work regardless of what it's going to take. Because not everybody would see that. They would see, oh my gosh, this landlord's got to clean this place up. It's a dump. You know, I don't want to move into this. But you knew we're a bunch of college-age kids that don't have any money. Yeah, we'll clean it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we'll repurpose.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. So did you repurpose any of the items in there that you still use today?
Don't tell our landlord, but we may have sold some of the items, some of the metal. Some of it was like really nice stuff. We would put it on like Facebook Marketplace and sell it.
The deal was you'd clean up the warehouse.
And we did that.
The deal wasn't you couldn't have a monetary gain from cleaning up the warehouse.
Exactly.
I see that as a win-win. I mean, I doubt the landlord watches the show.
True.
Okay, so you move into this massive warehouse. I mean, is the glass pickup still able to fulfill that monthly rent? Because I mean, that monthly rent comes every month, and you gotta pay it.
Yeah, I mean, this is about the time we were like, second GoFundMe. What do you think? And that's when we launched the second GoFundMe. It was like, I a month after we moved into that facility, so like September of 2020.
Okay.
We launched the second GoFundMe.
Gotcha. So September of 2020, you launched it, and so that was the point in which you've got this facility, you've got this equipment, and now you're realizing we need to figure out a way to continue to fund this.
Right.
So is that kind of the only source y'all are looking at right now, or is there other contracts or agreements with different agencies to make things work?
Yeah, so residential pickup is still our main like revenue source. The second is commercial pickup, so bars, restaurants, hotels, casinos, but it actually makes a lot less money than residential pickup. It's like the margins are better with residential just because like the customers are so concentrated, whereas with like bars and restaurants, we go all over town for less customers and more glass. So it's really residential is still like our preferred method. And then on the back end, we're working on, developing products that people will buy.
Okay. And so speaking of the products, you've got 3 different glass jars, ironically, here that made the cut. They didn't get smashed. So you got 3 different glass jars here with 3 different what I can see closely are different sizes. I don't know if the camera's going to pick up the different sizing. I highly doubt it. So this is the coarsest variant on the table, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what size is this and what is this used for? I mean, honestly, this looks like raw cane sugar.
Oh, yes, it does look like sugar.
Like from a size, that's what I'm getting, like a raw cane sugar size, and I would like hesitantly put this in my coffee.
Those actually might be the same sizes, but those are coarse sand. I think one is just blue and one is white. Yeah, so that is what we use for coastal restoration.
This one's minutely smaller.
It might be.
Very hard to tell the difference. Okay, so one's blue, one's white. So what are they used for?
So that's what we use for coastal projects, because if you look at that sand, that is what our native sediment looks like in like the Mississippi River. It's a very fine, silty sand.
It's like a powder.
Exactly.
Whenever you move it.
And that, if you can imagine, waves hitting it will erode really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the benefit of using a coarser sand for coastal projects. It's harder to erode. And then because that is so fine, it's really good at absorbing water. So that's what we use for sandbags. Okay.
So with the larger grains, you're using that for actually putting back into the ecosystem for helping with, I guess, create an additional layer of sediment or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the finer is actually for sandbags. And so what are those sandbags used for? I mean, I know New Orleans uses them every time there's a storm that comes around.
Yeah, that's basically what they use
a heavy rainstorm.
Yeah, exactly. So protecting residents' homes and businesses against flooding.
Okay. And so are you working with like a governmental contract for selling it to them, or are you just giving it to them?
Yeah, we donate them. So anytime there's a storm, we basically have a huge backlog. So that right now we have like 300 bags ready, made. And then when a hurricane comes, we have like 3 days to prepare. So a hurricane comes and we're like, hey, come pick up sandbags.
Okay.
If you need them.
So therefore, they're open to the residents. It's not associated with any agencies yet.
No.
Yeah. So are y'all working to associate with agencies, or is it just all privatized?
Currently it's all privatized, but we're definitely open to working with agencies. It's not the easiest thing to work with the government of New Orleans. Yeah. They have a lot going on. So
yeah, coastal restoration may not be on their top priority list.
Yeah.
They're making sure the pumps are running.
Right.
So when you're going through this process of smashing the glass and sifting through it, I've noticed you, because you're very big on TikTok, which we'll get to in a second.
All right.
But I've noticed you've got even larger sizes that almost is kind of like little circles that you could hold in your hand. Mm-hmm. Are you using that for anything else, or what are those products for?
Yeah, so the larger, more like gravel sizes are really good for water drainage. So we've used it in environmental projects as well as like mechanism for drainage. It's cool in landscaping because it's really pretty. You can see all the different colors. So landscaping, and then also terrazzo flooring. which is
What is
yeah,
that?
it's a flooring used in like it's like in the airport. It's a very durable flooring, and you can see little chips and like chunks of things, and that's usually glass.
Okay.
So yeah, you can use it in flooring. You can remelt it. I'm wearing a little bracelet, if you can see it, where we've like remelted the blue glass and formed it into this bead. Tons of different things.
And all that at your facility.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we are obviously past the one machine used and the Home Depot set of sifters. So, I mean, what does your machinery look like nowadays?
It's quite large. It's got a few different parts, hopper, conveyor belt, crusher, trommel screen, automatic sifting. So yeah, right now we mostly use machinery. So we have a front end loader that we scoop up the glass with and then put it in the hopper, and then the machine kind of does the rest.
I like it. So you had to learn how to drive all these machines.
Oh, that was the fun part for sure. Yeah, forklift certified.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you're on TikTok heavily. And which is really because you like a lot of educational videos. Because one of the questions I was going to ask is when people think of glass, broken glass, they think of cuts. Mm-hmm. They think of, don't walk on the floor after there's shards of glass everywhere. So obviously the question I'm sure has come up countless times is, isn't that dangerous? Can't you cut yourself? Why are you working with glass?
Yes, I have an entire playlist on TikTok called Is It Sharp? And I answer this question probably 100 times. Every time a video goes viral, that's like the top comments. Like, it's going to cut me. Yeah, no, it doesn't cut you. You can open these. I think you should open one of these jars.
Okay, which one?
That one's the softest on the right. And just confirm for the audience.
Now we're going to have sand and glitter in the studio.
But yeah, the way the machinery works is that it is able to round the granules out while it's crushing it.
That's crazy. It doesn't even feel like sand.
It's soft.
I don't even know if you can hear that. Probably not. No, it's very soft, and it's like very, very fine sand almost. Like I'm picturing this. So I like to play golf, and I'm like, this would make perfect sand for a sand trap on a golf course.
Yeah. So some
because they burn through this stuff, and you get the same cloud effect that you do when you hit it. So that's what I'm looking at this like.
Yeah,
I'm selling this to golf
in
courses.
California does that, and they use, I'm pretty sure the green glass for it. So
Okay.
It's like green sand traps.
That's nifty.
Isn't it? It's kind of cute.
Okay, so yeah, no, that literally just felt like sand. There's no, okay. It doesn't cut.
Confirmed.
Clip that. Okay, so we know the finer bits doesn't cut you and all that stuff, and that obviously the other ones I'm assuming are gonna be the same thing. Mm-hmm. So for the graveler, the more gravel type of sand, using that, I know like some people will use these different colored products on like garages and stuff that they then put like clear coats over. I'm assuming that's kind of how the floors are made with what you're describing. So all that also is still kind of rounded off within these machines.
Yep.
Because I know like people that look at glass think it's an entirely different product. When you get down to the science and the chemicals behind it, like the process in which you create glass, bringing it back to sand is just kind of reversing the system.
Right.
So in theory, like
We're
when people look at
circle.
sand, a complete circle.
Yeah.
So when you get to that point, I mean, where do you see it going next? I mean, coastal restoration, while isn't very, very, very important element of not only for us in Louisiana, but the whole Gulf South. I mean, with what we're losing and everything. But to get to that level, I mean, that's a lot of bottles. I know in Louisiana we consume a lot of bottles, but is it enough?
Oh, that's a great question. And something we're, grappling with. We know we're not enough to solely, provide all the sand needed for coastal restoration projects. But that's why we're still getting tons of sand from the Mississippi River, and that's sediment. But we also know that is running low, and especially running low on coarse sand, which is important. And so our goal is just to be able to at least supplement these projects with this coarse sand with material that would have otherwise ended up in the landfill. And yeah, that's just the main goal.
So do you ever see it as being more on the commercialized side of things, where these engineers that are designing these coastal restoration their projects, and are you reaching out to them saying, hey, we've got a product for purchase that not only solves the job, but helps kind of recycle everything and is a good push for everyone involved?
Right. That's definitely the goal, the long-term goal. Right now, we're still refining, what those products look like. We've done research with Tulane University for the past year. We just got renewed for 2 more years of research. And so, we're still figuring out exactly what that looks like. And then I think once we hit it, then it's just game over.
Yeah, I mean, because that is a never-ending project where you'll be constantly creating this cycle.
Right.
So is there ever in the picture, outside of coastal restoration, alternative products y'all are going to look at creating?
Yeah, I mean, the best environmental way to recycle glass is turning it back into new bottles. But like we talked about in the beginning, we don't have a nearby plant to do that. The closest one is Ruston, and they only accept clear glass. So even if we did that, we're still left with brown and green bottles that need an outlet. And so I think ultimately, potentially there's a, bottle making plant closer by to where the glass can be turned back into new glass, because that's a truly circular economy. But until then, I think coastal restoration is really going to be the big push for us.
So have y'all thought about opening up one yourselves?
If someone could give us a couple $100 million, we'll build the most beautiful plant. Yeah, I think the issue is just capital and that know-how. Mm-hmm. That's so much more complicated than just crushing it up, turning it into sand. There's so much more chemistry and the temperatures at which it melts, and then making sure it doesn't crack, and it's just so much more detailed.
Yeah, it's not as simple.
Right.
So for you've got different colors. I mean, are y'all really concerned with the coloring that comes out of the sand and how it's going to be used? Like if, let's say, for example, you've got, Breck Parks over here that they have got a variety of different golf courses and products that use sand. If they say, hey, I want like a pure white sand, or do y'all have in place a system where it's separated, or is it all just kind of thrown together?
Yeah, so currently we make the recyclers separate their glass at our free drop-off. Okay. So if you're a paying customer, you just throw your glass in the bin, and we take it and we mix it all up. And when you mix it all up, it just looks like tan, beige sand. And then,
a little brighter than a Grand Isle beach.
Right.
But not as bright as like a 30A white beach.
Right. But at drop-off, we have the recyclers separate brown from clear from green. So then we're able to make, on a pretty big scale, white sand.
Okay.
And so that's something we're looking into, especially as we expand even into like Mississippi. While their sands aren't 30A white sand, they are much whiter than our Grand Isle sand.
It's brown. Let's be real. Grand Isle's beaches are brown.
Right,
that sand is
and that's
very
what we
brown.
make. But yeah, figuring out if we can also scale, making that white sand.
So from a collection standpoint, how do you grow that?
Yeah, that's actually the fun part, honestly. It's been a struggle since starting. I talked about how the barrels would fill within hours, and we're overwhelmed with glass and just glass everywhere. And so we're excited to get to that stage to where we're like, okay, now we need more glass. And yeah, the goal for that is really just to connect with more communities outside of New Orleans. I mean, we're already in, Jefferson Parish and Metairie. We're in St. Bernard Parish. And so maybe next is Baton Rouge. We see it as a very clear next market, Slidell, even up to maybe as far as Hattiesburg and over to Lafayette, and just connecting with, businesses airports are a big one, casinos, hotels. Those are the really big fish. And then also communities and increasing our residential pickup services as well.
Yeah. So is there a plan to get a fleet of trucks, or how is the pickup? Because going from, you experienced it today, going from New Orleans to Baton Rouge is not an easy feat in the afternoon.
Right.
So, I mean, what does logistically that look like on y'all's? And have y'all been thinking about it, kind of planning it out?
Yeah, we've been planning out Baton Rouge for a while. It's definitely a tricky one. We think how it looks is having sort of like a base here where we're collecting and then bringing it to a base, and then a much larger truck is able to bring the glass from that base to New Orleans at a time when there's no traffic
4 o'clock in the morning
on a Sunday.
On a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're still thinking through all of those things and figuring out what makes the most sense.
So are y'all scoping out a location here in Baton Rouge as like a central hub?
We haven't yet. If you have any ideas,
Maybe we'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk. We'll
Okay.
figure something out. Okay. So how has the coastal restoration been? What have y'all done so far? What kind of projects have y'all been involved with?
it's been really incredible. It was one of our dreams from the beginning, and Max has always been a dreamer. And I've always been a scientist. So he was like, "We're gonna turn the glass in the sand, use it for coastal restoration." I was like, "It's not that simple. There is science that needs to be done." And so when we really started making moves is when I was able to partner up with my old professors at Tulane in the chemical engineering department. And we applied for a grant from the National Science Foundation, and they were awarded $750,000 to like do the research. So that's how we were able to test like that it's just as round as our natural sand. It's not sharper than what we find on the beaches already. What is in the glass, different contaminants that might be present. Can plants grow in the sand? Can fish swim in the sand? Like, is everything safe? And so that's what we've been doing the whole past year. And all of the results have been so positive that we were able to do 2 projects already. The first with the Pointe-au-Chien Indian tribe. They were directly in the eye of Hurricane Ida. And so they are really vulnerable to erosion and storms. And so they're a key partner that we're working with. And then also we did a project with U.S. Wildlife and Fisheries and the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana on the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain.
Very nice. So y'all are making some progress.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be another question I had was when you get these bottles, while we think initially of alcohol beverages, not every bottle is an alcoholic beverage. So is there like a sorting process if maybe something comes in that could be contaminant or could have like some type of chemicals in there? I mean, what is that process?
Yeah, so right now we're able to have a lot of eyes on the various processes. So number one is our drop-off service. We have that manned or womaned every day, every time we have that service. So there's someone monitoring what's coming in. And then with our pickup service, we have people go and pick it up. They see what's in the bin, make sure it's cool, and then put it in the van. And then additionally, once that glass reaches our warehouse, we throw it into our glass mountain.
Yes.
So that's another check is like, okay, we toss it in there. Everything look cool. And then when we put it in our machine, we check again and it goes up the conveyor belt.
Okay. So the glass mountain has become a key talking point in your TikToks.
Yes.
How did that start becoming a thing?
Yeah. So it originally became a small issue because we were always getting more glass than we could process. Like our machines were always smaller than we needed them to be. Mm-hmm. It's always been an issue. And so that started like a little bit of the backlog. And then when Hurricane Ida hit, totally unrelated, but it just happened right when Hurricane Ida hit, one of our machines broke. And it was from that company where it was made in New Zealand.
Right.
It was a larger version, but it was still from that company made in New Zealand. So we had to wait 3 months for the part, it was a conveyor belt, to have this machine work. That was when the whole ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. Like, it was crazy. It took 3 months to get that part. And that's when we were like, okay, no more overseas machines, like American made. We are only getting
here.
Yeah. So now our machines are made in New York. But yeah, so we had for 3 months no machine, and glass just kept coming.
Wow.
So that's when the mountain really grew.
For 3 months, yeah, I would say that you probably accumulated a whole bunch of glass.
Yeah.
So is it dwindling down? Are you at a point where now it's not so much a mountain?
Yeah, we've been attacking it a lot. And it definitely like ebbs and flows. It grows and shrinks.
I'm sure around Mardi Gras it'll kind of pick up a whole
Exactly.
lot.
Exactly. So no, really, and sometimes it's random, just like, I mean, the holidays, obviously, but yeah, there's certain times when we just get a bunch of glass, but we're still processing the same amount. And so sometimes it grows, but then sometimes we don't get a lot of glass and we're processing the same amount. So then it shrinks. It's alive.
It's a living thing.
Yeah.
So with that ebb and flow of machines over processing for what you're intaking, are you at the point where y'all are looking to have a second plant? Or have you not maximized the full space in your warehouse with machinery?
Oh, we've maximized. We tend to do that. We tend to grow into the spaces that we're in. Yeah, we filled up that 40,000 square feet
Real
pretty
fast.
quickly. Yeah, so we are trying to work with the space that we have while also thinking about how it would be so much better if we had 3 acres,
3 acres?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's not a random, where did you come up with 3 acres?
We visited a plant in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he recycles so much glass. Like, he's probably like 10 times bigger than us, maybe more. And he's on 2 acres. And he was like, I could use a little bit more space. And so we're like, okay, if we take that, let's just do 3.
Gotcha.
And that's the goal.
3 acres in New Orleans is not cheap, though.
Yeah, we might be looking.
Not cheap at all.
No, not at all. No. Yeah, so we might be looking in neighboring parishes.
Okay. But still having that access of New Orleans and having the access of the
for
surrounding
sure.
parishes. I mean, I think there's a lot of glass that goes through Louisiana alone,
Yeah,
that you can get supplies from just about anywhere.
yeah,
And getting those logistics in place, I think, is going to be key, because that's not easy.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there's a reason you have your monthly recycling and trash fee, depending on what city you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that costs money for them to pick it up.
Yeah,
Like, I know in Louisiana, it's built into our water bill. It's
Yeah.
built into like sewer and trash and recycling is all built into that bill. So is there any outlook to figuring out if that could be a solution with partnering with utility companies for collections?
yeah. I think that is the long-term goal. I think some cities are more organized than others, and so it's about working within the means of that city. But yeah, that's definitely the goal, and to make it easier on other people. It's like, yeah, just add it to your water bill, and then you can get recycling pickup, your glass recycling pickup. It's that easy. You'll be charged, but
Well, yeah, I mean, that's all part of it. You know,
Yeah.
you can't run an organization or a company without a source of revenue.
Right.
And so generally the services cost a fee. I mean, I don't look through my water bill and be like, oh, I'm paying for trash and recycling.
Yeah, what
Come
else are you gonna
on. Like, it's part of living in the world we live in. There is processes and systems in place to make sure that we not only are taking care of what we're disposing of, but also making sure that people that are doing it are properly compensated
for sure.
for making that happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would not bat an eye at having a glass half full surcharge on the bill and have an appropriate can for bottles or an appropriate container, whatever
Yeah.
it may be that works best for
Yeah.
bottles specifically.
That's the
Because
goal.
especially with the sorting, I imagine you can't simply have a truck that just dumps it all in, because then you can't sort it
Mhm.
by color. I mean, because that color, again, when you get to the various products, matters. So I'm sure that is going to be another logistic nightmare.
Yeah, the things that $1 million companies do is have robots that optically sort each color. It's pretty cool.
But can they do it with broken shards?
Mm-hmm.
They do it with shards too?
Yeah. As small as an inch, they can. It's pretty cool.
How much does that machine cost?
Like $1 million, legitimately a solid $1 million,
Holy smokes.
just for the machine. Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody wants to maybe get involved at a higher level, is there investor conversations open on the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
Gotcha.
For sure. Yeah, we're starting a capital raise really
Okay.
soon. We won't go GoFundMe this time.
Hey, look, they have. I'm assuming you're aware of the NOLA Angels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're a great group that I'm sure would be able to sit down with you and look through some stuff.
Yeah, I got to fill out that application.
Got to do the paperwork. Come on
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Come on, Fran. All right. Well, as we start to wrap up the show, we have a set list of questions we like to ask everybody. They're very, very hard hitting and very tough questions. What is something you did as a kid you wished you could still do today?
Ooh. Something that my mom actually didn't even know that I did as a kid.
Uh-oh.
But when it
The
rained,
truth comes out, Fran's mom. The truth comes out.
Well, I told her, I was like, remember when we did this? And she was like, no. But anyway, I lived on Bayou Karen Crow.
Okay.
And so anytime it rained, we would make a mudslide into the bayou and literally swim in there. And she was like, gator, like, what? Yeah, so swimming in the bayou. I think now that I know all of the wildlife that live in bayous, I wouldn't swim there.
Those are
anymore.
just pets. Come on now. The alligator, you just pet them and they're fine.
Sweet creatures. Yeah.
Very sweet. Like I've hatched some from eggs before. They're very, very loving as soon as they're hatched. Then when you get into the other tanks where they're feeding them, they're not so nice. But
yeah. So
yeah.
Swimming with the gators, I think I'm past my prime there.
Okay. So you've gotten your experience through trial and error and through kind of the Google. So what are 3 lessons you've learned along your way?
Don't be afraid to reach out to your community, ask for help, and like tell people what your hopes and dreams are, because they'll come back to you with ways that they can help. Google is definitely a big one. I think, yeah, don't be afraid to start something without having any idea how to do it. Like I had no recycling experience and
Yeah.
here I am. Now it's my life. And then using social media as a very powerful tool to get your message out there and gain customers and loyal fans.
Yeah, that's using the right way can bring about a world of help
Yeah.
to your industry and to your business specifically.
Yeah.
So figuring out what platform is best and figuring out what channel of communication is best is key for any industry and any business. I mean, for you,
Yeah.
TikTok seems to hit. It seems to work. People seem to love looking at the glass mountain and everything you've got going on and then watching the bloopers and stuff like that.
You saw that one?
Yes. I told, look, we have to know, right? We have to know. You're Fran. We have to know.
People actually seem to hate that one, but it did get me 4 million views. Yeah.
Haters
The
gonna
drama.
hate. Look, haters gonna hate.
The drama sells.
That's a whole different podcast.
All press is good press.
Look, I mean, people talk about it. Your business gets out there. Your brand gets
My
out there.
mission is further.
And then they're intrigued after that. So long as you don't do the overly catchy, tune in for part 2 later.
I hate those.
Those are terrible. Okay, so you from Karen Crow, operate in New Orleans. You're all over the map in Louisiana. What is something you love about Louisiana?
Definitely the people. We're like no other. I randomly went to boarding school in Boston for 2 years of high school. Horrible people. Hated every minute. Not every minute, but like, damn, they suck. I just love the people down here. We are so warm and welcoming and like just willing to do so many things with a stranger. Like, I haven't found that culture anywhere else.
Yeah, we are willing to give the shirt off our back to help somebody when in times of need.
Exactly.
So I can definitely, yeah, I see that for sure. For the final question, what can I do to help you?
Follow me on TikTok. No.
I already do that next.
So many ways. So people can truly, yeah, follow us on social media, Glass Half Full. Come volunteer at the free drop-off. It's a really good time. spread the word, get us more customers, invest. That's a new one.
You got a link on the page for investor opportunities. Link on your website.
Email me. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, so if somebody is interested in either A, volunteering, or B, maybe setting up a recycling center or collection spot in their town or city, what is the best way to go about doing that with you and your company?
It's definitely to email me, but I have the longest email in history. I should shorten it. It's my full name, Franziska, FranZiska, at glasshalffullnola.org.
Oh man, you gotta shorten that. You gotta shorten that. Like,
I know.
Like
it's
Fran
bad.
or F
it's bad.
or info at glasshalffullnola.com.
We have hello at glasshalffullnola.org.
Okay. Does that forward to your email?
Eventually, yeah, it'll get to me.
Okay. Maybe
You can also DM me on Instagram. Like whatever works for you. I know that's a long email.
Oh, we're gonna tag your social pages in the show. We're gonna tag and link up your website in the show notes. So
Awesome.
if they're listening to this and they want to learn more, they can click on your website. And then I'm assuming you've got a contact us page.
They will find me.
Okay. Because I found you through the TikTok.
Oh, nice.
I think I DM'd you, and then I found your. Then I went even further and found your email address. Again, we have to know.
Mm-hmm.
We got to figure out who people are. So okay. Great. So if you're interested, everybody, in helping out, whether it be through volunteering with the local pickups, or maybe you're interested in having a pickup at your community center, your church, your school, your organization, your company wants to get involved, whatever it may be, reach out to them, whether it's through their email, their social media, what have you. Let them know you heard about them here and that you want to help out in furthering the cause, or you just got a lot of glass you want to get rid of. Reach out, and I'm sure Fran will gladly accept whatever bottles you got in all shapes, sizes, colors, orientations, whatever they may be. She's going to accept them all, and they're going to do what they can with the glass. So, Fran, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you braving the traffic.
5 o'clock.
It
really hits.
That is Baton Rouge and New Orleans. I wish you good luck and safe travels getting back across the longest bridge over water.
Hey.
So thank you so much, and thank you everybody else for listening or watching this, whatever platform you're consuming the show on. I really appreciate it. I know the guests do as well. With every person at least giving one bottle, recycling one bottle, you can kind of help play your part in doing what we can for coastal restoration and making the life cycle of a bottle continue. So thank y'all so very much. And thank you for the amazing companies and organizations that make this show possible, so you can learn great things about the community, about the state, and about what people are like Fran are doing in and around your area. And we want to give a big shout out and thanks to those companies right now.
Sell your home for a $399 flat fee with Falaya. No, seriously. Falaya will list your home on the MLS and help you get all the way to the closing table for as little as a $399 flat fee. Our online platform is insanely easy to use and will save you thousands. If you're thinking about selling your home in 2022 and want to keep more of your hard-earned equity in your pocket, you need to check out Falaya. Falaya, real estate reimagined.
Thank you all so very much for listening to this episode of the Patty G Show, brought to you by Government Taco. They're located on the corner of Government Street and Jefferson Highway. Jay is always slinging up a new taco of the month, so if you're a frequenter to Government Taco, let us know in the comments what you thought about this month's taco of the month. If you're not a frequenter, maybe trying out this month's taco might just convert you. Big thanks over to them at Government Taco for making the Patty G Show possible.
Imagine taxiing on a plane looking toward the end of the runway. It seems so far away, it's even hard to see it. And that's what the concept of retirement probably felt like when you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, way far in the distance, not visible or even a concern. But as you turn 50, something happens. Retirement suddenly seems like something real, something not too far away. In your 50s, you are rolling down the runway. Retirement is getting closer and closer, faster and faster, weeks and months zipping by. But are you even ready for a successful takeoff to retirement? Fear not, there's still runway left. But the time is now. Time to make progress and time to get a plan. The Runway Decade will help you get organized, get energized, and give you the direction you need to take off to your desired retirement. The Runway Decade, building a pre-retirement flight plan in your 50s.
Thank you to Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge for making this show possible. Nick Pentis is a past guest. We love having him on. Listening to him talk about the culture they have over at Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge is really an incredible thing to hear. How they treat not only their employees, but every customer that walks through the door. You are more than just a number to them. They're going to give you that white glove concierge service every step of the way. They're going to make you feel like family and take what can be a stressful time in people's life, shopping for a car. They're going to make it so enjoyable and so pleasurable. You're going to want to go back there time and time again for every new vehicle. Thank you so very much for Mercedes-Benz of making this show possible. Thank you so very much to Mallard Bay Outdoors, the Airbnb for the outdoor sportsman. If you're looking to book a hunt or a fishing trip, this is the platform to use. They were a past guest of the Patty G Show. We got to learn all about what they're doing from the ground up. They are really revolutionizing the booking process for hunts and fish all across the country. For your next hunting or fishing experience, or maybe your corporate retreat, you're looking for something to do for your employees, book a hunt or a fishing trip with Mallard Bay Outdoors, and they will take care of you every step of the way, from organizing it with the guides and the captains to making sure you can take care of them at the end of the trip. Mallard Bay Outdoors, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show.